So I received the question this week, do I teach space soothing? Is that my method for getting babies to sleep? My answer was no, big fat no, this is not a method I use. And that might surprise you because it's a really common and well accepted tool for improving sleep or sleep training your baby. But there are a few reasons I don't like it and why mums and dads don't like it, so I thought I'd run through them. So the first and major problem that I have with it is it doesn't often feel aligned to the parenting style of the clients who come to me. So very often the sort of clients that my approach attracts are people who have been relying on co-sleeping or breastfeeding to sleep, rocking to sleep, contact naps, and they don't want to go straight from having that close nurture and attention at sleep time to turning their back on their child and walking out of the room, because it is so directly opposed to how they would normally parent their child during waking hours. Because let's face it, if you're not going to leave your baby in a room on their own during the day to figure something out, would you do it during sleep time? Now, the other reason I don't like it is that it often produces a lot of tears from children and from parents. Much as it is promoted as a gentle method of settling that involves the parent coming back every few minutes, it still involves levels of upset that are not acceptable for many parents or for me. Now, full disclosure, I am not going to shy away from little ones' tears, and particularly toddlers. You know, we often encounter times in the day where toddlers are just going to lose it over many simple things. You know, you gave them the blue cup, they wanted the yellow cup. Their banana broke, their biscuit broke. Many things they're going to get upset about. And sleep is no different, particularly if we're adding in a loving limit of saying, no, it is sleep time now. Now, many children don't like that, assuming that we've got the timing of their sleep right and they're really properly tired. It's perfectly acceptable and understandable that your toddler is going to go, no, I don't want to go to bed, I want to keep on playing, and they might get really cross. So with that might come a few tears as well. So it's knowing how to support those tears, not turn our backs on tears, because of course little children and even children through to school age don't have the full capacity to self-regulate, so they really rely on their parents and close loved ones to help them regulate those emotions. So when we walk out of the room, they don't necessarily have the capacity to go, oh well, mum's just standing outside the room and she's going to come back in 3 minutes. In their minds, when you're gone, you're gone. Now, of course, this method may be something that you've tried and it's worked for you and you've had great results. So if that's the case, look, that's fine. And I'm not here to judge anybody who's done it, but I am not going to teach people this method because it does not align with my style of work as a sleep coach or as a midwife. And you know, I'm fully expecting some backlash from this post because it's not what everybody wants to hear, but that's okay. We've all got different opinions, and what I'm here to say is that for those people out there who very much identify maybe as attachment parents, or those parents who have really sensitive children who are not happy at all when they go out of sight, or even for those parents who love co-sleeping, who love holding their babies to sleep but just want to improve things without having to walk away from their child, then I'm here to say there are ways of achieving that without doing space soothing, timed responses, whatever you want to call it. So the skeptics amongst you will be saying, oh, well, what do you do then, Katie? And that's a great question. Of course, much of it will depend on what the individual goals are for each family. Now, if independent sleep is the goal, which is a common one, then I would look on working towards independence, but within that codependent situation first. For example, if babies are fed to sleep, it's a case of, okay, well, how about we try falling asleep on a bed together first? So rather than separating from the baby by putting them in the cot and then us sitting on the floor, being non-responsive to them, because that's another method as well, to actually be together on the same surface and coax independence in that situation first before we then ask them to do it in a cot. The way my approach works is that I just break it down into really tiny doable steps. Work with what works first and gradually do less. So gradually back away from what you're doing rather than pulling the rug out from under them, walking out of the room and saying, hey kid, you need to figure this out and I'll be back in 3 minutes. Because there is literally nothing else in childhood that we would use this approach for, right? We don't put food down in front of our children at the table and strap them into their chair and say, right, I'll come back when you've finished that. I mean, maybe that was a method back 100 years or so ago, but it's certainly not an acceptable method these days. I often use the analogy of learning to swim as well. So to begin with, when we want our children to learn to swim all by themselves, we do it with our bodies close to them. We get them confident in the water first before we then start to hold them a bit further away till eventually they can do it without holding hands at all. So sleep is really very similar. Being supportive, holding your bodies close to them until they are able to do these things a little bit more independently, then you start moving your body away. So I really don't ever recommend parents just walking away and leaving their child, especially if there's going to be feelings around making these changes. If your child is going to be upset or thrown in any way, they need their parents close. Now again, my beliefs might not resonate with you. That's absolutely fine. But if it does resonate with you and you're thinking, oh, thank goodness, I'm not interested in space soothing, I'm not interested in timed responses, but I'm not quite sure how other more gentle methods work, then please feel free to hop on my website. There's lots of information there that will explain a bit more about what I do, and please don't hesitate to reach out if you've got questions.